It's okay to be scared. It's okay to have fear. That's perfectly normal, right? I said, but you don't let it stop you. We are Saints in the South, your source for gospel growth and good times. All right, here we go. Everyone, welcome. Episode 131. We are in Esther. And
they keep on coming, don't they?
That's right. Exactly. Yep. We are without Marcus again this week. We have my family. We are going on a camping trip this weekend, and so we are recording earlier in the week than we normally do. And Marcus's schedule does not doesn't jive with it, so it's just going to be me and Kenny again this week.
Fortunately, it's not earlier in the morning though. I don't think
that's right. Absolutely, that's right.
I'm not an early bird. Yeah. So the book of Esther, man, this is good stuff. So yeah, I think we should just talk about the story. This is different than some of the other Come Follow Me lessons in that we do cover the entire book of Esther, and it's a narrative. Definitely. It's a super cool story, so it's not just something where you pick out some key points. I feel like to get the gist of it, we have to go through the story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this starts out, with Ahasuerus of Persia. So he's making a royal feast. It's crazy. Obviously, he's kind of showing off his wealth here.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing off his wealth and power, and he's got all this going on. And we don't know why there's a separate feast going on. Why his wife, Vishti, is it Vishti?
Yeah.
Vishti. Okay, make sure I say it right. So we don't know why there's a separate feast for all the women. We don't know if it's because that was the custom, why they felt the men and women need to be separated, or there just wasn't enough.
It's either the second or the fourth week, because you got the priesthood being separated, right, and the Relief Society. So they got their own little thing going on. So
that's right, exactly. And so, except that, that's probably where the similarities end between the priesthood,
right?
And, the Relief Society meetings.
That's right.
They're partying. They're throwing down.
Right.
And so, yeah, Ahasuerus he's hitting the wine pretty heavy, and he's, I can only imagine he's probably talking some trash, because the whole point of this is he's showing out, man. He's showing everybody,
right.
Look at my wealth, look at my power, look at me. I've command this great kingdom and everything. And so he's probably like, man, y'all see my wife? So, and it says he was getting on the wine. So I'd imagine he's probably getting good and drunk at this point. He's talking a lot of trash. He's showing off. He's like, man, y'all see my wife?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Not only do I have all this wealth, I've also got the hottest wife in town. Okay.
Exactly. So, yeah. That's it. And so he's like, oh, he's going to show him. He's like, y'all, he tells his boys, go get my wife. Go tell her to come here. We'll show off how hot she is, And so they go together. And of course, Vishti ain't having it. She's like, what? So you're saying my husband he's drunk and he's wanting me to go out there and prance around and show off? Like, no, sir. That ain't going to happen,
man.
And which was not probably the best way for her to handle that situation, which I think any of us could understand her feelings there.
Right.
But unfortunately, this probably wasn't the best way for her to handle that, because it didn't go well for her. So he was pretty upset. So yeah, the king was not happy with that.
But kudos to her, man. Kudos to her for standing her ground and saying, look, I'm not just eye candy here. Okay. I mean, I have values, right? I mean, there's a lot more to me than just my looks.
Yeah. And this whole story of Esther to me is like it's a good girl power story, man. It's
absolutely
one of these, like,
that's right.
Because you've got Vishti, who is like, she's strong. She's a strong, independent woman. She don't need this king, objectifying her. That ain't going to happen. She doesn't necessarily handle it in the wisest way, though, because it doesn't go well for her.
Right. Especially back during her time. It wasn't the way to handle it.
But then we have Esther, who comes along and she handles things differently. But she shows how successful she can be with it. And so, yeah, we were talking a minute ago about how you can literally go through the chapter heading. If you just read the chapter headings one after the other, it's like a short story in itself. Right. It's great, And so Ahasuerus is like, okay, we're going to have to get a new queen. Then she's gone. And I don't know if he just what he did with her. I mean, it doesn't really explain, but It wouldn't surprise me if he had her killed. I don't know. I mean, it seems like his pride was injured, and it became a big deal. It became, not only did you offend me, you offended the people here, you offended all the princes, like you have offended everyone.
Right.
So,
well, I think that the biggest thing that was hurt to him was his pride. I mean, he was he was showed up there to his by his wife. And
he was showing out. He was in the process of showing how big and powerful he was, and then his wife kind of knocks him down a notch. And his pride was hurt pretty bad. And so then in chapter 2, we see that Mordecai, we meet Mordecai and see that he exposes a plot against the king, which is pretty awesome, which puts him in good favor. He finds out some underhanded cloak and dagger stuff going on, and he brings it to light, and they investigate, and they find out, oh yeah, these guys were planning some stuff.
Which in my opinion, Mordecai, that name, it has to be in the running for one of the coolest names in the scriptures.
Oh yeah,
Mordecai.
That's a cool name.
That's a cool name right there.
Yeah, one of us need to have another son just so we can name him Mordecai.
Right. Exactly.
And then so then we go to chapter 3. Mordecai refuses to bow to Haman. Haman arranges a decree to kill all the Jews. So yeah, Haman, there's this story is interesting because there's certain things that are just expected to be kind of understood. There's a lot that's not expressed, but Haman apparently, well, we can kind of get the gist from the story that he's not a good guy, but there's probably more to that. He's probably a little bit slimier than we even see in the story, because but he's placed in a point of elevation where like everyone's expected to bow to him, where he is.
Is he second in charge? Is he basically second in charge?
Yeah. Okay. He becomes Ahasuerus makes him his right-hand man basically. Right. And then Mordecai, this guy, he's like, I ain't bowing to you. Like, well,
you're not the king.
It's kind of like makes me a little tense, because if you don't know the story, you might be thinking, man, you're going to end up with Vashti over here if you don't watch out, Mordecai. You making people mad that you don't need to be getting on their bad side. So Haman arranges a decree. He goes to Ahasuerus, and this is a funny thing about the story to me is Ahasuerus seems very suggestible throughout the story. He's like he's kind of this guy. Every time somebody comes to him, it's like, hey king, what would be cool? And they give him an idea, and he's like, heck run with it.
Run with it. I like that.
Good idea. Right. So it's funny because he seems like a dummy, but so the king has been portrayed, depending on what stories you're reading, like he's different. So this is an interesting fact to me. This is Ahasuerus Xerxes, which is, if you think the name Xerxes sounds familiar, if you've ever seen the movie 300 or you're familiar with the Spartan legends, that's the same Xerxes. And so
you sent me that on text last night. I never did respond, but that's right.
I was wondering, you never responded. I was like, wondering if I just said it without any explanation. Like, I wonder what Jackson's going to say.
It took me a second to I'm like, what is this about? And then as I was reading everything last night, I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, which is funny because obviously the movie 300 is not, as much as I love it, it's not historically accurate. Not the tiniest bit. First of all, the story, this big legend of the 300 Spartans, there's no evidence to show that we don't know if it ever even happened at all. The whole story could theoretically just been made up. So there's no evidence that I'm aware of that it even happened. And we definitely know that Xerxes didn't look anything like that. The Persians didn't dress that way. They didn't look that way. There's a lot of creative license taken in that movie. Normally
is with Hollywood.
Yeah. Just so in case anyone, is like thinking about 300 when they imagine this story, it's probably not the best way to picture it in your mind, because it's not going to be accurate. And then Mordecai and the Jews mourn, and they fast because of the king's decree, which is another cool story about fasting and prayer here, the power of fasting and prayer, because this obviously, it doesn't say that the end result of the story was a direct result of fasting and prayer, but it can be implied that this was good, because the Jews they they were fasting and praying, and this was a big situation.
Now, and did you? And I may have missed it, but did you clarify that it was basically an extermination order that was given to kill all the Jews?
I don't know. I don't think I really expounded upon that, but yeah, it was a clear extermination order, and not even like a Governor Boggs, like clever, like, well, I didn't mean to actually kill them all kind of thing. This is a clear, like, yes, we're going to kill them. Every one of them, their women, their children.
On this specific date. Yeah.
Yes. On this specific day. So, yeah. So this is a bad situation happening. And then, then Esther goes into the king, which is really, really dangerous on her part. But the thing that sets Esther apart, or Hadassah, which is, she's first introduced as Hadassah, is between her and Vashti, is that she's very humble. She's very submissive and respectful, and like she does things in a different way. Like she doesn't, she's not loud and angry. She's like, okay, like she's quiet and respectful, but she does what needs to be done. And in the story, I can only imagine how scared she must have been in this situation, because because of the kings, not just at this time, but throughout history, really, there's assassination is always a real threat. Any person in a position of that much power, there's always a very real threat every minute of the day, every minute of the night, that somebody's going to try to kill you.
Right.
And so because of that, they had very, very strict rules. Like, you don't come into the king's parlor. You don't approach the king without being invited. You don't, period. And you'll die. And it wasn't even like, okay, if you come approach the king, we're going to arrest you. And it's like, no, if you come approach the king, you're going to die. Somebody's going to just step out and they're going to, I don't know, chop your head off, run you through the spear or something. It was a zero tolerance policy with approaching the king. And so I can only imagine how terrifying this had to have been for Esther to approach the king unrequested, but she does it. She invites, him and Mordecai to a feast. And here's the thing where I might be wrong, but it seems like it shows how scary this is for her, because she invites them to this feast, and then then they say, so what's going on, or invites them over, to make a request. Exactly how she worded it. But then she's like, I'd like to invite y'all to a feast, and it's like, you invited us over to invite us over.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that all, really? Like, okay.
So when I was reading that, I was like, hold on a second. Am I reading something again, or what's going on here? She just did this.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but I think, like I said, I can only imagine it's because she was probably scared to death. This was a huge thing for anybody.
Yeah. And
especially somebody that's like this humble person, like Esther wasn't. She didn't see herself as any, great person. She wasn't, she was just Esther. She was just like, man, I'm just this girl. I'm just trying to survive. And this is all this stuff's happening.
Yeah, that's literally what she's doing. I mean, because she's been, the circumstance that she's been placed in, right? It was not of her choosing. And the only reason that she is there is because the first queen, Vashti, whatever her name is, she's made the king mad. And so she's been put away. And so now she's in this new position because, the king actually ended up selecting her among several other virgins as, to be the replacement queen, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
she held auditions for queen.
That's right. Exactly. Yep. But she definitely understands, because in the conversation that she had with Mordecai, because Mordecai, he had to convince her, right, to go forward with it. And I love his response in that he says, he talked about, he said basically, for what purpose have you been placed here? Right. Think about what's being transpired. He says, this is why you're here, so that you can save your people.
Man, I just got to chill. I know. I love it. That's like that. That's actually the pinnacle of the story right there.
Yeah.
His line, for such a time as this.
There you go.
The Lord placed you here. And this is, that big, like, if this was, I mean, this would make a Hollywood blockbuster movie, really. Yeah. And this would be the pivotal moment. This would be the climax right here. The big moment. Like, if it was a Hollywood movie, there'd be like a thunderstorm, like there'd be thunder and lightning, it'd be raining, and it'd be all like close-ups on their faces. And he'd be Esther. for such a time as this has the Lord placed you here. And you'd be like, whoa, dun, 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 with dramatic music.
That's right. And
That's
then
kind of how I picture it.
well, and then that scene ends with her kind of looking off in the distance and saying, and if I perish, I perish.
Yes.
Which is what she said there. So
classic. That's it. Yep. That's man.
It's intense.
Chills. So yeah, she's got a lot of courage. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, she definitely. And the thing, the one thing I think of here is when we're talking about courage, she has true courage in that some people like courage is not being afraid. Courage, people who have courage is not the lack of fear in a dangerous situation, right?
Correct.
Courage is the ability to keep going forward in the face of fear, even when you're scared to death, even when you're terrified. Courage isn't just that you're not scared. Courage that you're able to keep moving forward when you are scared. And that's what Esther has.
I love that.
She's not scared. It's not that she doesn't understand the peril of her situation. It's like she's just like, she has true courage. She's like, okay, you got to trust in God and just keep moving forward. And she's like, I might die. And she knew, there's really very good chance that I could die. Worst case scenario, everybody dies. Like all of my people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So talk about some high stakes.
Absolutely. And I love what you said that about the courage, because anytime it's exactly what I tell my children. Anytime they tell me that they're scared about doing something, whether it's getting up on stage or going out on the court or approaching someone, about anything. And I'm like, I said, it's okay. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to have fear. That's perfectly normal. Right. I said, but you don't let it stop you. Okay. You've got to keep moving forward and you got to overcome that. So, but it's okay to be scared. That's normal.
Yep. That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that we can learn from this story too, of Esther, this girl, and she's this, young girl, just little Jew. Her parents died. She was basically an orphan, being raised by her uncle. And she's put in this situation where the fate of her entire people, not just the entire Jewish race, but her entire religion, her entire, an entire people, belief system.
That's right.
Is at risk of being completely wiped off the face of the earth.
Right.
And she is the single person who's in a position to prevent this from happening. So that's
huge. That's really,
really huge.
Yeah.
And so, so Haman, he's planning to have Mordecai hanged, so he obviously he's a pretty nasty guy.
He's all about his status.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is one of the funniest parts to me too. This story has twists and turns. So Mordecai, he exposed this plot to the king, and the king was like, man, when he finds out all the details of the story, he's like, okay, this Mordecai dude, he deserves some honor. He deserves something, because he has literally saved my life single-handedly. Right. If he hadn't stepped forward, I would have been dead right now. So he goes to his right-hand man, Haman. He's like, Haman, I want to ask you, you're my right-hand man. I need some advice. What should I do if I wanted to honor somebody? If I wanted to just honor somebody with the greatest honor I give him? Haman's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's all like, he's all smiling and grinning. It's like, tell you what, your majesty, king, I'll tell you what you should do. He goes through this whole thing. Put your robe on this man, put him on your horse, put your crown on his head.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's all just pouring it on. And
and the king
and Ahasuerus is like, great.
Yeah.
Do it to Mordecai.
Yeah. Again, the king is like, great idea. I love it. Move forward with it.
So he's very suggestible. So everything. Yeah. And it's ridiculous because, Haman, the stuff, if he wasn't the right-hand man, he could be put to death for saying some of this stuff. It's
right.
It's ridiculous. The stuff he's like, put him on your horse with your robes and your crown, like he's the king, and so he's just like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. then he tells him, do it to Mordecai. And I can only imagine Haman's face in that moment. Like,
yeah,
what?
I mean, absolutely, just devastating to him to know that he's going to have to honor this man that refuses to honor him.
That's right. Exactly. The guy that he's already been conspiring to kill. He's already built this gallows. And it's interesting. I've heard some stuff about the gallows is I think would have been like 50 feet tall. So it wasn't just like a normal gallows. It was probably a really high pole. And the whole idea was he didn't just want to kill Mordecai. He wanted to hang Mordecai as high as he possibly could, where he could be seen by everyone as an example. He's like, he wanted to show everybody in the kingdom, you disrespect me, this is what happens. You see this guy hanging up on this pole way up in the air there, that's what's going to happen to you if you disrespect me. And so of course it doesn't work out for him. Then Esther reveals Haman's plot to destroy the Jews. And then the big plot twist, he's hanged on his own gallows.
All right.
So that's the whole pride cometh before a fall right here. He's all prideful and he's this and that. And he ends up getting hanged on his own gallows.
Yep. And I learned something from him and his example, because he's running back, he's telling his family, right, his friends, he's like, man, this guy Mordecai, he's got it coming. He refuses to honor me and my status and where at my standing, next to the king and everything. And he gets so caught up on one individual, because there's only one individual who refuses to bow to him and to honor him, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's all we know about. There doesn't say there's anybody.
That's all we know about.
Like everybody's bowing.
That's right. And so he gets so caught up in his pride and what someone else and what this one person is thinking is that it ends up resulting in his death, right? Yeah. How much better off would he be if he just says, okay, all right, you're an idiot. I'm not even gonna worry about you, right? So that's an example to me in life, right? Too often we get too caught up on what someone else is saying or what they may refuse to respect or and they may even go on the offensive, and start talking bad about us behind our backs or something like that, listen, I got too much other things going on in my life that are positive to worry about what you're saying or what you're doing, right, or disrespecting me and everything. So
yep, that's a good lesson. Yeah, man. Yeah. He got so caught up in it, he let his pride drive him to do all this crazy stuff, and which ended up being his downfall in the end. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, you made a good point. If Haman had just let it go, things could have turned out very differently.
Yep.
Even if Mordecai was honored, or even if Mordecai didn't die, he would have probably still been fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's a good chance nothing bad would have happened to him at all if he had just kept moving forward and just brushed him off, said, okay, this Mordecai, whatever, he's an idiot, but I'm not going to let it distract me from, I've got all these, which I'm sure he's like the right-hand man. He's probably got all kinds of responsibilities, so if he'd have been focused on his responsibilities instead of getting distracted by this one person that he felt like was disrespecting him,
right,
things could have been a lot different.
Was that the because it was his idea, Haman's idea, to have all the Jews killed as well, right?
Yeah.
So
that's another situation where he went to the king, was like, you know what, these people, there's these people that they're disrespecting you. They have their own little culture and their own little ways, and if we let them keep going, we've seen these people, and they knew Jewish history, or because that's interesting. He kind of makes a point to say these people in the past have built up kingdoms and they've done things, and what's going to happen is they're not going to pay you tribute, because they're going to, once they get established, once these Jews get a foothold here, they're going to be a problem.
That's right.
You need to go ahead and take care of this right now, nip it in the bud, get it gone.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it.
The theme of this lesson, that's a good idea. Let's do it.
That's right.
The other thing I take away from this lesson are those that are willing to stand for what's right. Right. So you had the original queen, right? She was, and I'm sure what she was doing, I'm sure she probably had to realize that she wasn't doing the best thing as far as her personal interest. But at the same time, I'm guessing
she probably overestimated her own position.
She probably,
like, I'm the queen, so like, but
I'm sure she did. Yeah. but but anyway, she was willing to make a stand for what she felt was were right. And um and then the same thing with Mordecai. He wasn't going to bow to some unrighteous individual who he knew was up to no good. So he made a stand there as well. And then of course Esther, ultimately made the ultimate stand in approaching the king, knowing that her life was going to be on the line there. So
yeah, I wanted to read a quote that I did a little screenshot of when I looked at this, contrasting Vashti and Esther. So you just made a good point. They were both women who stood up for what they believed in. They were both, strong women. Vashti was worldly, though. Vashti, the thing is, she followed the worldly expectations of what, a woman, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like it's a good parallel for today even. She was kind of a feminist. I feel like, she was kind of like, I ain't gonna let no man tell me what to do, and I'm gonna do this and that. Whereas Esther was like, she wasn't like, she didn't allow herself to be demeaned or disrespected, but she was very different. She was a godly woman. And so this is a quote from Margaret Nadal. Hold on. There we go. She was the she was the I think it was hold on. This was 2000. I think she was the general young women's president. And she said, women of God can never be like women of the world. The world has enough women who are tough. We need women who are tender. There are enough women who are coarse. We need women who are kind. There are enough women who are rude. We need women who are refined. We have enough women of fame and fortune. We need more women of faith. We have enough greed. We need more goodness. We have enough vanity. We need more virtue. We have enough popularity. We need more purity.
That's great.
I mean, I think that sums up the contrast we have between Vashti and Esther.
That's right. Absolutely. That's right. Great example of Esther. Makes me think about. Have you heard about the wives of Provo?
The wives of Provo?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have.
So you've heard of these, you've heard or you've seen these reality shows, the
Is
wives
it like
of
the Real Housewives?
Yeah, that's right.
County
that's right. Yeah, Real House.
Like
yeah, that's right. Real Housewives. So they got Real Housewives of Provo. Anyway, they're LDS, and it's bad.
I'm sure. I have a feeling if they're even on a show like that, they're probably not
right.
They're probably not the Esthers.
That's right. They're the Vashtis. That's right, for sure. Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. Any other closing thoughts?
I don't think so. There's obviously, just like I say every time, man, we could probably talk for another 3 hours, but
that's right.
There's the main. I think this story is the main. This is one of those where you really need to read it from beginning to end and really get all the little details, because it is a narrative from beginning to end. It's a good one too. I mean, there's really good lessons here.
Yep, absolutely. Good story. 10 chapters long, and good story. It makes me think about the women in my life. From my wife to my mother, my grandmothers and sisters and everything. And so, I was able to, think about their lives, and pull out those kind of Esther moments for them and everything. So yeah, just makes me think about the strong women in my life as well. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's the women, like Sister Nadal talked about there, the godly women.
That's right. Absolutely.
Versus the women of the world. It's a difference.
Right. There you go. Absolutely.
Same with us. Same with the men. There's a difference.
Between
a big difference between the Lord's idea of what a man should be and the world's idea of what a man should be a lot of times.
Yep. Mordecai and Haman, right?
That's it. There you go. Yep. That's another contrast.
Two different parallels. Yep. Very good. Well, all righty. Well, until next time, y'all keep on striving.